Hello everyone and welcome back. This is the losers round matchup between Kale and Jtranleopard. We're looking now from Kale's perspective. He is the Hojo in blue. He chose the first map, which is Daisetsu Basin. I love this map. It's one of the best ones, I think. It's got a nice open field here in the middle for infantry tactics, but so much crabbing and ambush potential from these two sides and the lower valleys, along with the two buildings don't hurt as well. It's also a great map for skirmishing, and maybe reflecting that both sides have brought some bows. For Jtran over here, you brought two bow warrior monks, and for Kale on this side, looks like he just has the two bow samurai, so fairly even in the skirmishing department. A little bit of an advantage goes to Jtran because bow monks have the longer range, but with good micro, bow samurai can fairly handily defeat bow monks. We're looking at the side of Kale now, and looking at his cavalry, he seems to be a little lighter than Jtran. Jtran sent the replay, so we'll be able to see all of his units. We're not quite sure what Kale might have in store. But we know that one of his cavalry units has come out and is going to be trying to capture the farmhouse. It's a light cavalry over there. Meanwhile, Jtran is moving his little matchlock detachment down the hill to try and take the archery dojo, which will very much come in handy on this map, as it's a very good skirmishing map, being just open enough to give a good angle of fire, but it's really hard to flank with these ridges right over here, and going uphill will slow down any unit trying to flank and hit missile units. So it's a really good map for skirmishing. Now we'll see if Jtran decides to sort of sit tight and wait for Kale to come to him as he's a designated attacker, or if he'll kind of push out with skirmishing and maybe try and bait Kale into a rushed attack. Looks like he's sitting tight for the moment, and Kale is going to be the one moving up right now, with some Yari Samurai over on this side and the bow samurai on his right flank. They're now going to start being hit by the bow monks. Maybe a good idea to sit back and wait, because it'll allow the range of the bow warrior monks to be used to its most effectiveness, because the bow samurai will have to move into their range before they can shoot. The bow samurai, or the bow monks, will be able to get at least one or two volleys off before the bow samurai are even set to fire, and just now it seems like Kale is going to be moving them up, and they're already have taken a good number of hits, but surprisingly taking relatively few casualties. This one's only lost 3 men. This one's has now lost 14, but you'd think they would have taken a little more after those free shots that the bow warrior monks had. But the higher armor of the bow samurai makes them actually quite good for skirmishing. It can actually be a match for bow warrior monks. Bow warrior monks have very low armor, and you can tell right now because this one's at 67, one over here is at 68, so the numbers are actually a little bit in Kale's favor. He could actually outright win the skirmish battle, but Jtranleopard is sending out a great guard to try and push those bows back and make them move as much as possible so they won't be shooting into those bow monks in loose formation. Actually doing just a nice job of standing and fighting, but maybe standing a little too decisively there, as that bow samurai is going to get hit by a great guard. In fact, it's going to keep on running and go into the second bow samurai, so that was actually a pretty nice job. But downhill charge into this matchlock detachment will pretty much send that one off the field. Killed about 30 men in that charge. But the Yari Ashigaru should be able to clean up this Yari cavalry, and especially the Great Guard coming from the rear. This cavalry will be taken off the field, and the matchlocks just might survive. The bows, these bows, and they just got tore apart by that charge. I think one of them is already, one of them is shattered. The other is on the verge of shattering. So Jtran has a pretty big advantage here with the bow advantage. He can just skirmish all day and make Kale come to him, which is the biggest advantage to having a strong bow complement. Let's check over here on this side, where it looks like light cavalry has stood their ground and chased off the Yari cavalry, and he will get the farmhouse. But now that Jtran has the archery dojo, bow building, whatever, he will be able to skirmish that much more effectively. Another unit of Yari cavalry is going into the matchlocks, just using way too many forces to deal with this one matchlock Ashigaru. I mean, matchlocks, I've said it many times this tournament, are not the force that they used to be, and are not worth throwing away even one Yari cavalry, I think, unless you see him going into a very vulnerable position where they will be able to flank your army and get some really good shots off, especially on Daisetsu Basin, and where they're put on the field, seeing as they have just a bad firing angle no matter where they are pretty much. They're just not going to be very useful right here. I think they'd be much more useful in a frontal skirmish and just moving right up the middle through here. So there goes 2 Yari cavalry units for Kale, and he is running out of cavalry fast. In fact, he might be totally out of cavalry besides this one light cavalry, and that would be very unfortunate, because that has implications for the melee battle. And it looks like Jtranleopard, I think, was one of the weaker players in the winners round 1, but I think he's doing pretty well in this battle, and he maybe learned a little bit from his battle with Indie Pride, who loves his Nodachis, and he's brought 2 of his own. So we're going to see if he can get some nice infantry engagements off here. And Kale is definitely pushing forward, does not want to get skirmished to death. And this side over here is actually being a nice little distraction and taking Naginata Monk. And ooh, man, this could be huge, though. This match like Ashigaru, although at half strength, is going to be in a perfect position to start just taking shots into the rear of Kale. Now, Kale has some cavalry coming out. 2 Katana cavalry seem to have been crabbing through the forest there. And 3 Katana cavalry were actually crabbing through the forest. Will they make it there in time? And will Jtranleopard notice before it's too late? Yari Ashigaru are about to drop to the Naginata monks, but the Matchlocks are going to get their shots off right now. And unfortunately, the Yari Ashigaru couldn't hold a little bit longer for those Matchlocks to get off better shots. But it looks like that Jtranleopard is very invested in this melee infantry fight and might just completely miss this cavalry attack. Kale might have gotten the huge advantage of surprise here. Leopard might have thought that all of his cavalry was taken off the field, and he's just going to be able to manhandle his rear here. Rally's already been popped there for Jtranleopard, trying to move his forces into position for the perfect engagements. And Kale being very patient on his engagement here, doesn't want to get broken up into segments, which is a wise move, but oh no, this matchlock. I said they weren't dangerous unless they were flanked into a good position, and that's exactly what they did, taking shots into Kale's general down to 16 men. Does get him out of danger just in time, but that could have been very bad if he let that happen. More units are breaking here for Jtran, so it looks like the crab action by Kale is actually going to work here after losing the skirmish fight. Might make it up in the infantry battle. Both sides are being fairly patient. This Yari Ashigaru and Spear Wall is waiting for whatever's going to pour through. And we're going to look at the cavalry, actually, for Jtranleopard. I think he just has the 1 unit of Grey Guard right here who's not moving at the moment. We'll see if he's going to be able to get him into position in time to save the battle. The Katana cavalry is still sitting tight. More matchlocks are now going off, and now this is the angle you want for matchlocks. Just be able to pour into the rear here. Yari Samurai isn't even taking the brunt, and a Great Guard is rushing in, and Jtran was in a pretty precarious position there when the cavalry came out, but he seems to have recovered well enough to pull this one out, unless his general gets killed. Nice charge from that Katana cavalry. Killed 11 men in that general, but there's mass wavering along Kale's line. 10 men left in that unit. If the general goes down, this will be very close. His men seem to notice the general's been hit, and Kale's men have rallied. And now 8 men in that unit. The Katana cavalry will just be tearing this unit apart. They just have to hold long enough for that general to go down, and maybe he can pull it out. It's going to be very close. This is just going to be so intense right now. War cry is active now along Kale's line. Katana cavalry trying to... Oh, the line just totally broke here for Kale. In fact, where's his general? I didn't even notice him. I think he's gone, but so is Jtran's. But oh, I mean, the margin of victory here for Jtran is just seconds, literally seconds. You saw how close that was with this line just breaking on this side. So close in terms of time. See you back on the main menu. Well, that battle was all about seconds. The numbers may not have seemed very close. Look at all those losses Kale had compared to Jtranleopard, but I mean, literally, it came down to seconds there. If Kale's units had held out just a little bit more, and that cavalry had just been able to rout the general and move on to the infantry battle, that could have been a very different outcome. So close. I mean, that has to be one of the closest battles in this tournament so far. Just, I mean, just the margin of victory was so slim, which is, I mean, it was literally like 5 seconds between Kale's wings shattering there and the general being taken out for Jtran, and which made way for the cavalry to move on to the infantry battle. So really close, well fought by both players. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you in the next game.